Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. Today, we're going to be doing a follow-on with more additional new interesting information and even updates regarding the bones in the bag found by Ty and Lance just recently, okay? At first, I wasn't even aware that another interview was coming around on Doug's channel because there's been quite a few back-to-back in recent time, but the good thing is it's followed a certain order and pattern, so we can update information as we go along, strengthen, reinforce, or debunk certain stuff, okay? But also, in importance, additionally, what we're going to be doing today is a small little map analysis tying on with what Candice has to say in this very recent interview, okay? Look at another key location, which I didn't get round to in the previous video. And speaking of the previous video, if you haven't already, make sure to check it out. It's looking at the spring cleaning much deeper, looking at the grain shed inside, really analysing it and possible locations following on from, what happened with the bin bags, right? So make sure to check that out after this video just to catch up on things. I'll provide a link down below in the comment section where it's pinned, all right? Also, if there is time later on in this video, I'll read to you another article. I don't know about the information itself, but it's a new article that's come out just recently. And there is another one which I'll have to get round to in another video because I don't have access to it because I'm not from the US, so I'll have to work that out at some point. But let's start off with the key bullet points with this recent interview on Doug's channel. Now, I've done it again where I've listed all the important points. It was a long video, but I only mentioned the new information which we've not heard of before, right? I'll give my opinions if possible and analyse further on them. So to begin with, the most important update, the most important news regarding the bones in the bag. Candice Cooley was talking about how Box Elder County obviously got a hold of the bag of bones, assessed it, checked, and despite their incompetence and stuff, some of the deputies within are all right. And they confirmed that the bag of bones are not of Dylan, nor are they to do with any other human. They're animal. Now, is there any small possibilities that the odd bone could be human that might have not been taken in or been publicly revealed or sent to Candice for confirmation? Who knows? But, for the most part of it, if majority of the bones in that bag are animal, then why would there be the odd human bone within it, right? It just wouldn't really make much sense. So, one point Andrew Culver did mention, if I'm correct in saying it's him, said something about possibility that human bones could be mixed in with animal bones to cause confusion. If they don't assess all the bones and just check the odd few, they might then generalise the others without being tested as animal, and they could be human. That's an alternative way of looking at it, but from what was said by Candice Cooley in this very recent interview, the bag of bones are not of Dylan. So that's kind of like a dead end there. Now, move on to the next thing, and it's tying in with this whole situation. And it is interesting because Candice Cooley said when they first did the interview, I don't know if it was on the Mob Cruise or it must have been someone else's, I can't remember whose it was. It might have been even been Doug's, right? Candice said when she did the interview regarding the spring cleaning, Brenna going out there into the grain shed, moving stuff around, taking the bin bags out, about 4 garbage bags. That was roughly last week. And Candice was saying after doing that interview, 2 to 4 days later, Ty and Lance just so happened to come across a bin bag in the middle of nowhere and then find bones within it. She was saying it's just some kind of weird coincidence, or is it, something is kind of odd going on. And I think she was also mentioning about other stuff in the past of other interviews where she came out with certain news and updates, and then another YouTube channel came across something similar shortly afterwards and said, oh, look what we found. So it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, you can share your own thoughts and opinions in the chat right now. Do you think there's any correlation between Ty and Lance finding things shortly after an interview's been done? Do you think that's possible? I mean, when it comes to supposed individuals staging things, whoever that might be, whether it's fully true or not, if it has happened, then it could happen again, right? And although, you know, one thing you got to take in mind from what's been said, Ty and Lance are doing it to help the community and help the family. Other general public, some have a negative outlook on them and say, no, they're doing it for the money. And to be honest, this coincidence of finding a bin bag full of bones shortly after that interview being done about Brenner taking bin bags out of the shed, it just adds more ammunition, right? If you wanted to push a certain agenda. So, I don't know. I guess the only way of really doing it would be to look back at all the interviews in the past, certain findings, and then tie it in line with, was it shortly after an interview was done or not? And what channels came across this stuff? Is it the same reoccurring ones, etc.? Leave your thoughts down below. But as I said, the main thing is, bag of bones is not Dylan. Though, with timelines coming across that bin bag, is there some kind of conspiracy going on? Did they plant it there to try and make it look natural and then see if they could benefit in some way? That's a conspiracy, right? That's not what I'm saying, but I know other people would, right? Let's move on to the next one. And it's actually, once again, it's linking on from Ty and Lance. So they were talking about Doug and Candice, about searchers being out there doing their thing. And they were basically referring to Ty and Lance. I don't know directly Ty, mainly Lance, because it's Lance's channel. And Candice and Doug don't really agree with the whole donation thing, where people are donating money to Lance's channel, going out there and searching for Dylan, because the family doesn't approve of it. The family hasn't set up any like raising money type things like that, so they don't think the money should go to Lance. In your own opinion, what do you think of that? I mean, in my situation, I can't really talk. All I'll say is, when it comes to humans, you know, if they have money or whatever, for the most part of it, they can decide what they do with it, right? Whether it be for good reasons or bad reasons, it's just one of those things. All one should do who may be on the receiving end of it, just be grateful and thankful. That's just the way I see it. With Candice and Doug saying, oh, you shouldn't be getting that. Let's just remember Doug, he may have received donations at some point, may still now. You know, you get what I'm saying? You only can talk so much. And maybe he's been a little bit hypocritical, possibly. But that's just the way it is. You can leave your thoughts down below what you think about Ty and Lance. I mean, what you've got to also take in mind, Lance has his own YouTube channel. No, not Lance. Ty has his own YouTube channel, which has just been set up recently, right? Well, it's not just been... Well, the videos have been uploaded just recently. I don't know how long he's had a YouTube account for. I can't remember. I haven't checked. But you look at his videos, kind of timeline with Lance, because they're both out there at the same time for most part of it, looking at mines, the surrounding area. And on Ty's channel, he doesn't do live premieres, live streams, just uploads them in basic format videos and then just leaves the comment section open. So, you know, there's no donations there. You know, Ty doesn't seem to be complaining, and he's with Lance because they know each other, friends, get on well. So it's just one of those things, right? Let's move on to the next key point. And this is once again linking on back to Brenner and the whole spring cleaning. And this is very important, okay? So hopefully there's enough people here present to listen to this. June the 2nd was the beginning of the spring cleaning by Brenner, as we've previously heard. But ultimately, how long did Brenner have to be able to clear out the grain shed, maybe the surrounding area, maybe the trailer? Bits and bobs might be scattered about, right? How long? It was from June the 2nd to June the 16th, right? That's how long Brenner had to get rid of things, okay? June the 11th, he was arrested, but then the following day was released. So he could go back to his he could go back to his trailer and then carry on maybe moving things about in the grain shed, right? So he had a comfortable amount of time, right? What was it, like 14 days or so? 14 days of getting rid of evidence, hiding things, clean up on any mistakes, any clues left behind, any trails. That's quite a long time, right? If we rewind backwards to the day Dylan went missing, supposedly on the 28th, it was the 28th to the 30th. The 30th is when the family came down and when it all, started catching fire and attention, right? Back then, Brenner had kind of like 1.5, roughly 2 days to dispose of Dylan or move him somewhere. And then fast forward a little bit, going into June, 14 days to clear up any other, mistakes, bits of evidence. And that is a possibility, right? We're having 4 to 8 bin bags full of stuff. It's like, who knows what's in there? It could well be tied with Dylan. Some people could say, yeah, it might be just rubbish, or it might be manure, it might be hay, it might be this, it's that. But do you think Brenner is the type of person to clear up the shed so then it makes it easier for the police to search about? No, he's not that considerate. He also has been described as a lazy slob. So do you think he's going to really tidy up his own rubbish? Probably not, because you've seen him dump the cans in the grain shed. So it's not likely that he would have made a conscious effort to tidy up after himself unless it was for his own benefit, such as reducing the heat level, getting rid of evidence which could tie him to the disappearance of Dylan, right? I mean, the gun, the key fob, Dylan's vehicle were all cleaned down, so there wasn't like any DNA being applied to Brenner. And if Brenner was the one who used those items and stuff and also returned them back, let's just say, he cleaned them. So he was somewhat thinking same could have occurred with the grain shed, because there might have been even more stronger, important evidence there. I mean, you could argue that Brenner may have got rid of some rubbish, the odd few cans, as well as proper evidence, just to make it seem a bit more normal, right? Obviously the LE doesn't seem to care, first and foremost, because they just sit back. But if Brenner puts a few cans in, a few bits of rubbish, covers it over the real evidence underneath, when you're taking it out, it just seems a bit less suspicious, right? It's a bit funny saying that word, less suspicious, because it's all very dodgy, right? But you get the idea, okay? Anything else? The bin bags themselves, just a small confirmation from Candice. Candice said the bin bags which Brenner took out with him from the grain shed were not black. They were white in colour. Kind of like bin bags you would get inside of your own house. Now, when it comes to the UK, for most part of it, has black bin bags inside of the house. So it's different to the US. So that can impact one's outlook on what colour the bin bags could be, right? But now we've got it confirmed, white bin bags. So basically, if you come across any black bin bags scattered about, dumped around, like how Ty and Lance did, they're probably more likely ruled out as not being Brenner's, right? Could have changed colour? Highly unlikely. Could they be double wrapped inside of a black bin bag? I mean, possibly, but if it's just white bin bags present, then it's just going to be 2 lots of white bin bags, just like how it was 2 lots of black bin bags with the bones tiny lands found. So it's just tiny little important details so that if for whatever reason people do come across a certain coloured bag, you get an idea before even inspecting it whether it could be something or not, right? It will be interesting if anyone else just happens to find a white bin bag all of a sudden now, then that would be a bit of a coincidence, right? And it could seem a bit planned. Anyway, let's move on to the next point. Candice Cooley talking about the farm, the actual atmosphere of it. The way she described it is the way I imagined it previously in the past. Candice Cooley said, when she goes to the farm now, because of what's happened, there's an eerie feeling. You know, she worded it as, in the past, you were going there to visit Dylan and to give him maybe items and supplies. Now you're going to the farm to find Dylan. That's how it's worded. And to be honest, even though I'm not from there, I can imagine it being a bit spooky and a bit kind of creepy and weird, because not just that it's empty. You know, sometimes when you do get environments which are empty, it can be spooky. To some people, it's peaceful. To other people in certain environments, it's eerie, okay, because you're really the only one there. When you are in such a place where an individual was at, and it's still kind of relevant and recent to that individual and them disappearing, and you're really the only one there now, it's like, oh no, where could he be? Is he literally right here and I'm not aware? So that's what makes it a bit creepy. And even when I was going on Google Earth at the time, I was looking at the maps, I was on the peaks with the 360 sphere boots on ground footage, just, you know, like hovering around. It's like, damn, this is kind of weird, you know, overlooking the valleys, looking down over that way, Dylan's farm's down there, damn. And as well, it makes it even more creepy because some of these Google imagery, right, 2019, 2020 photos, around the time Dylan was still alive and still working on the farm as well as going about moving around. So it's like you're stuck in time, frozen. You can see the life then, but obviously it's different now. That's what makes it a bit weird. As well, another interesting point is, before this Dylan Rounds case, Dylan going missing, really no one would have heard of him, right? Okay, locals would, but in terms of all these people that have come into this case, this Dylan Rounds community, trying to solve it or just watching along, most of those people would never have known Dylan if it wasn't for him going missing. And for those people that may have been present on Dylan's land, passed by his trailer, his farm, or the gate, the brass shed, or even just sun tunnels, visiting that place and knowing that north, down that way, down that long road, is the grain shed. You know, if there's anyone in the chat right now, or anyone that watches this video at a later point, leave a comment down below and let me know if you have been to Lucin before Dylan went missing. Have you been to sun tunnels? And if so, how does it feel knowing you were there at some point in the past, maybe when Dylan was doing his farming there, and you were close to him, unaware of what would happen in the future? Do you get a weird feeling about that? Leave your thoughts down below. So, anything else? So Candice Cooley was talking about the bin bags. You know, there's quite a lot of talk around it, but I guess it's the most recent thing going on. She believes that the bags are likely away from the area, not on the property of the grain shed or Dylan's place of living, his farm. She thinks it's, you know, elsewhere. And that is a possibility. I mean, I had that idea beforehand, right? When I took into mind what Candice said about going down to Wendover. She still suggested that possibly Wendover is where the bin bags were taken. As you know, I did have a look at Wendover for possible places. There was like disposal The landfills were mainly in Salt Lake City. I did check up on that afterwards, after the video. There wasn't much in Wendover. Wendover was just mainly the waste disposal, right? And the odd recycling centre. So, yeah. Anything else? I mean, if she thinks the bin bags have been taken further out, and it's evidence, let's say, if that was the case, why would Brenner keep the main thing, such as like the remains of Dylan, buried in the ground on the land at the scene of the crime? Why would he leave something that important there, but then move bin bags, which are possibly evidence, but not as significant, it might not be the body, and take them further out? You know what I'm saying? If the phone was a certain amount of distance away from the grain shed and Dylan's place of living, it was at the pond, I think what we've got to try and do, possibly, is there some way we can create a hierarchy of importance when it comes to individual pieces of evidence, from the gun to the key fob to the phone to maybe the wallet, which I don't think has been found, Dylan's actual possible remains, or Dylan himself if he's alive, and then maybe clothing, the boots at some point, the bin bags. Is there a certain order we can arrange them in terms of hierarchy of importance? And then if we could, look at the locations of where each item was found at. So I might do this in a separate video, right? But not all the items can be listed in terms of location, such as the wallet, Dylan himself, the bin bags, whatever they are, clothing, but all the other items which have been found somewhere or returned, just to try and picture it as if this item of a certain importance is found just here, and then that item, which is even more important, is found way, way over there, then finding Dylan must be even further out. You know, it doesn't really make sense to leave the most important piece of evidence as close as possible to where everyone's searching, right? And then the less significant evidence to be spread out even further away. You'd think it'd be vice versa. I want to know your thoughts on that. I'll do a poll right now. Do you want me to create some kind of video to do with evidence, the locations, and the hierarchy of where they could be at, which could determine where Dylan may be? Make sure to answer that poll right now, okay? Because it could help. So what else is there? Likely far from the farm last year. So regarding the fence, well, not fence, it's more of a gate, but it looks like a fence. It's a makeshift gate, right? It's nothing technical, it's nothing high-end. You've seen a few pictures maybe in the Mob Crew's recent interview. You look at that, looks like bits of wiring, the odd post stuck in the ground, and then the actual lock itself on a chain. You can kind of undo it and stuff. It's not that, you know, as I said, high-end, but it's mainly there just so the horse doesn't escape, which it did once in the past. So that's Brenner's reasoning. Now, to take in mind, if I'm correct in saying, even before Brenner moved onto that land, you look at the Back in Time feature on Google Earth Pro, I don't know how far back exactly, but at least in 2013, 2016, when Dylan was not on that land, and when Brenner was not on that land, there was still a perimeter fence of the grain shed. So it's worth taking that into mind, right? Leave your thoughts down below what you think about that. It's okay, Candice saying the gate and the fences are there primarily for Brenner's horse, but that's not truly the case. The fence and possibly the gate was already there, existing before Dylan and before Brenner moved onto the land. And Google Earth Pro proves that, okay? So, is there a possibility that Brenner's horse was already on that land before Dylan came in and before Brenner became the caretaker, whether that's the truth or not, squatted on the land there. As Brenner came along, he might have gone into the grain shed and thought, oh, there's a horse here, I'll have it. Maybe the original owner might have passed it on to the other owner. I don't know how things work, but it's just little questions around that. But the main thing is about this whole gate situation. Candice Cooley said Dylan had a key 1 year ago, so he could have access, whether Brenner was present or not. There wouldn't have been any issues. Though, how long ago was it? I'm sure Candice Cooley said in a previous interview that something like 3 years ago, the gate dispute, the gate argument has happened. They've been arguing about it for the last 3 years, which is a long time. I don't know if that's entirely true or if it still stands now, but I do remember Candice Cooley talking about that. Though I don't understand why there would be any complaints or disputes if Dylan had a key 1 year ago, unless the 2 years before that Dylan didn't have a key, and with all the arguing and bickering, it got to that point where it was like, fine, you can have your own key, Dylan, and then Dylan got it, and then the arguments subsided. But Candice did say in 2022 Brenner did change the lock. That could be for numerous reasons. It might be because of that horse incident when the horse escaped at one point, if it's around that same time. And if not that, it could be another worker or some other random individual that left the gate open. Or it could be pure awkwardness, Brenner getting one up on Dylan rounds, maybe because Brenner feels jealous, which we've talked about extensively beforehand. Brenner feeling that Dylan could be getting to that point of buying the grain shed and the land of it, so then Brenner feels threatened. So by locking Dylan out in a way, it's kind of like protesting, right? You've seen how people do that. Or like if a person's renting a house or something, they don't have enough money anymore, it's going to be taken off them, possibly the house, however it works, and then people end up squatting inside, lock the doors, lock everything, barricade it in so no one can get in and they can remain. So that could be like what Brenner did with the whole gate situation. Now that can tie in possibly with obviously the day Dylan went missing on the 28th. If the gate's locked, Dylan doesn't have an updated key for this new lock, calling Brenner down once again. Could have been a repeat of something like 2-3 years ago, but this time Brenner wasn't in a good mood or drunk or decided to snap this time, so it was a different outcome to what may have happened in the past. So it kind of sets the scene, right? Anything else? Yeah, as for the horse, I think it was a statement, the way Candice worded it previous. No, Brenner made a statement and they accepted it. I think that's how Candice quoted it in this interview of Doug's. Basically, Candice Cooley said, I don't know if it's her giving her true, whether it's like an opinion or a fact, Candice Cooley was mentioning that Brenner would never walk his horse anywhere. He's lazy, he's a slob, he just wouldn't. The horse isn't for riding, and there would be no point to walk around. What is there to walk around for? There's no like nice walks in the area. It's pretty vast, empty, dead, ghost town. And Brenner doesn't look like the type of person to walk, because if he did, maybe he wouldn't look as, big in size. So I think we're basically getting at that idea that whatever you want to call it at the time isn't exactly true. So if that's the case, then why is the horse tracks? Is that because the horse was set loose? It freed itself once again because the gate was open? Who knows? I mean, if these horse tracks are kind of recent, I'm just trying to think of something on the spot. Okay, this is a very, very quick point, okay? You can correct me if I'm wrong afterwards, but this is not a fact. This is an on-the-spot theory because I just want to try and think of something, okay? If there are horse tracks near the railroad, the railway tracks, if there's horse marks there in a certain direction, is there a possibility that it ties in with Brenner taking Dylan out? Let's say Dylan went down to the gate, trying to get in, called Brenner, it was opened, Dylan forgot to shut the gate, didn't lock it or something, the horse got out, ran away, and was not retrieved this time. I don't know. Brenner was angry with Dylan doing it because it's happened in the past with somebody else. Brenner snapped at Dylan, like, jealousy, rage, you're speaking down to me, you're young, you've got everything, look at me, and now you've possibly taken over the grain shed, so you're taking my land, and on top of that, you've made me lose my horse, and then he gets angry and snaps at Dylan. Is that a possibility, or is that a load of rubbish? Just trying to piece it together as an alternative motive for Brenner snapping. If Brenner is close to that horse, he likes it. He got angry in the past when the horse escaped. Maybe it happened again this time and Dylan was responsible. And that's why Brenner killed Dylan. Leave your thoughts down below. It's just a very quick on-the-spot theory. If it means something, if it holds some form of importance, I can do another video on it, right? But for now, it's just not been talked about until I said it. So the other thing that was mentioned a bit later on was like Candice and Doug was talking about, because of the way the case has gone and the way the LE have handled it, like Candice wants something good to come out of it. Doug quoted Dylan's law, which I don't know how to quite explain it, but I've heard it in the UK when there's been a crime or there's some victim, something bad has happened, if it's through corruption, police incompetence, or just a bad, serious case, and there wasn't a certain level of justice, they create a new law or a new procedure when dealing with maybe a certain type of case or with certain type of people, to take more things into mind, like some kind of awareness campaign, but as well as maybe legal procedures as well. Ultimately, I'm not an expert with any of that stuff, but I think that's what it's kind of like talking about. So I guess when you apply it to Dylan Rounds, Candice, with that idea of, because of obviously how the LE have handled things this time, is not only to help other families down the line and to try and prevent this from reoccurring with others and other cases, but maybe to set up some kind of awareness campaign or some kind of new law when it comes to dealing with maybe a certain type of crime or certain people doing certain procedures. Leave your thoughts down below about that stuff. Do you think it's a positive? Do you think it will happen? Do you think, regardless of the outcome of Dylan, do you think there'll still be good coming out of it or not at all? So yeah, next point, the wash itself. So Candice Cooley basically said that the wash is dry. There's no water in it, only when it rains. I mean, it makes sense. She said it's to like drainage. If it's drainage, it'll fill up with water, it'll pass down and then go off elsewhere. And if it's only a little bit of water or so, or the ground's a bit damp, just due to the environment, the heat, the temperature, it'll evaporate eventually. So if that's the case, does it change the idea with the whole wash and truck and track marks? If the wash is dry, then there shouldn't be any mud splatter marks on the truck, right, of Dylan's. So I don't know if it kind of like rules it out now. I mean, they said it last rained in March, right? And then when did it rain again after March? Like, if anyone knows, very, very, very important point. If it rained last time in March, when is the next time it rained? When? Was it the day Dylan went missing? Was it the 29th? Or was it much later than that? When did it rain? When did it next rain in May? Was it the day Dylan went missing or later? Leave a comment down below because it is important. You know, if the likes of Candice Cooley and some others are saying that, you know, due to the actual ground, normal ground, what you drive on, you wouldn't get that amount of dirt on the truck. You're more likely to get that dirt on the truck from going into a wash or somewhere where it's wet. Well, if it's not rained for a long time, it's dry both on ground but also both in the wash, then how do you expect to get mud on it? That's what I'm trying to understand. If for some reason it rained on the 29th of May in between the 28th and the 30th, then maybe that's when Dylan was disposed of, right? These are very important questions and I don't know if they have been answered or not, but there's no harm in just like bringing them back up again because I haven't seen or heard the answers. So it's very important, right? Let me know in the comment section down below, in the chat right now, after March, when did it next rain in May? Okay, we'll leave it there for that point. The tyre tracks. So I don't know exactly what area because there might have been a few different tyre tracks, right? There's been some in the wash, which Candice referred to recently. She was saying about doing some serial number registration check just to see if it ties in with Dylan's vehicle. I don't know if they're the track marks she's referring to or other ones, but whichever and wherever they are, she confirmed that the tyre tracks match Dylan's pickup vehicle, the F-150. So if that's the case, then depending on the area those track marks are in, it could possibly reinforce to why the vehicle is muddied and dirty, right? So it could be the wash maybe, it could be what I described or in a different area. Just trying to understand, because with those additional points what I mentioned previously, with Candice saying the ground is dry, it wouldn't cause that much dirt on the vehicle, the wash is dry, it's not been raining since, it's like, well, where else can you get that amount of dirt collected, right? That's what we're trying to understand, unless it's some kind of lake somewhere. I know you get these dried up lakes as well, but at times there's still water present. You know what I'm saying? I can understand the wash not having any water if it's like drainage because it goes eventually. But if you've got like a pond, you've got a lake where it holds water, it doesn't really go anywhere. It's where it collects. Well, there you go. That could be where the vehicle went. But I don't know the exact location of these tyre track marks. If you know, if you want to, leave a comment down below or just leave your own thoughts in the chat right now about what you think about this stuff, okay? What's another point? Just a small one. I don't know if Candice worded it wrongly or not, but the way I heard it in the video and the way she said was Brenna has not called her, but Brenna did call Justin, Karen and Larry rounds. But Brenna did call some of the Cooley family, but I don't know who, because Candice said Brenna didn't call her. Unless she slipped up with her own words and she basically meant she hasn't called him or responded. But, you know, if it's such a thought that Brenna did not, well, if Brenna avoided Candice, it might be because Brenna, well, it might sound bad this, but Brenna might have the same feelings as the LE that Candice Cooley is hard to deal with, maybe. Maybe Brenna feels threatened by Candice because, you know, she'll probably rip into him and, you know, interrogate him, and Brenna doesn't want that. I don't know, you can leave your thoughts down below. Do you think Brenna is intimidated by Candice? Do you think that Brenna reached out to Justin rounds first because he's more calm or he knows him better? I don't know. but that's just like how it was worded in the interview. Additionally, another small point, someone said Kurt's pigs, Kurt's hogs are dead, which are Dylan's in the past when they both had them together. I don't know exactly when these pigs died, but it was mentioned within the interview. Okay, it might be of some importance to some of you, right? Candice Cooley did say that it's unrealistic that the bags would have been taken to a landfill, like the whole procedure of being certain or not whether they are here or there. I think she was referring to the landfill or rubbish place within Montello, that it occurs once a month, that a vehicle will go down there, collect it, and then take it to a plant, to a place or something. Maybe, I'm not an expert with that. But I can understand that it could be time consuming. You know, if you're not 100% sure that the bin bags are there, you could go down, spend hours searching for it all and find nothing, and it's not exactly helpful. But I mean, due to what the LE have done and the way it's gone, I mean, could it really get any worse, you know? But it depends if the stuff is still there, right? I mean, June, spring cleaning, the 2nd up to the 16th. June, there's probably, in that space of time from then till now, the rubbish and trash would have been moved on. So it's probably not going to be there. I know other people have mentioned, not many, but some, and maybe others out there would think, so what? The bin bags are nowhere to be seen. Who knows where they are? They could have been burnt, you know, just outright in the desert. You got that burning pit, which is also a dirt mound near the grain shed. And then you got other people just burying things in the ground. So with the vastness of the land, and it will take quite a bit to cover every spot just for some bin bags, it kind of becomes unrealistic, just like Candice with the landfill. But providing it's not been burnt, obviously, if it's been buried, if it's just been dumped on the side of a road, under a tree, it's one of those things where it's still out there. You know, there's still a chance of it being present, unlike Brenner's mobile data, which only lasts for 7 days, the last 7 days, and then deletes afterwards. Also, like with Dylan's pickup truck, of the mileage, it only records the last 100 miles, and then after that, it clears it. So those two pieces of evidence, very important, right? They could both tie in line with Brenner's whereabouts, with certain phone pings of Dylan, possibly. It could also reveal the location of where Dylan's vehicle went at certain points, the time zones of them, right? Timestamps. It could also be reinforced by the track marks in the wash, possibly, or wherever else they were. But we're never going to know in terms of those additional pieces of evidence, right? Because they can't be, you know, retrieved. They're gone, completely gone. And I do think that they are probably some of the most important pieces of evidence within the case. You can leave your thoughts down below. I might even do a poll right now. Do you think Brenner's phone data and Ford F-150, although it's not present now, do you think that was some of the most important critical piece of evidence in terms of locating Dylan's remains, in terms of pinpointing where Brenner might have been and making him more of a suspect more than ever, or revealing something else, another lead? What level of importance do you have over those pieces of evidence in comparison to other pieces out there? I want to know, okay? So, with that aside, is there any other additional points? So, this was one which is kind of interesting, if you want to call it that. So, when it came to the discussion of Don, Candice Cooley said that Don Hately is squatting on the land just like Brenner was. So that explains to why certain people couldn't find Don's property, because he's just squatting out there, just like Brenner. You can't find Brenner's property like that, can you? It's just from what has been listed and the coordinates as well, I guess, near the grain shed. So Does it really mean much? Not really, because from what Candice said, ever since Don Haley has relocated and moved elsewhere in Utah. Who knows where that could be? Is there a reason to why he moved away? You could question, right? Has he moved away because there's nothing going for him now in Lucin, because Brenner's taken away his best friend? Dylan is no longer present, so there's no like work going on. I know Don is retired, but maybe he still wanted to work or do farming, so he may have gone to another place in Utah which has jobs or has more of a population. I don't know. Leave your thoughts down below. Do you think that Don moving elsewhere, his motive is because of the disappearance of Dylan? If Dylan was still around, Candice saying that with the crops, and if Dylan wasn't doing his custom farming, they would have patched up from the argument they had back then, which was 6 weeks before Dylan going missing. Is there a possibility that Don would have remained and continued helping out Dylan, hanging out, even if Brenner was taken away on other charges, such as like with the gun? Leave your thoughts down below, okay? Is it Don secretly getting away sneakily because he might know something? Yeah, I don't know. The possibility. Because I don't know exactly what time frame he moved away, but with him moving wherever, it might be to get away from it so he doesn't get questioned anymore. There's different ways of looking at it, right? Okay. Next thing, which is kind of interesting. Now, I have not been on it since because I don't have a link to it, and I can't remember where I found the link last time. Oh, it was Julie. Julie provided a link in the past when she was referring to it, but obviously she's gone missing and I've not seen them for a couple of months now. Don't know what happened to Julie. So with that in mind, does anyone else have a link to the Nam Us report, just to check in once in a while to see if anything occurs? I did type in Dylan Round's name and Nam Us in Google, and then it came up with the website. I clicked on it and then it was a blank page. And it's always been like that. Okay, so it's stupid. One thing to take in mind with what Candice said in this interview is that the Nam Us report of Dylan's profile keeps disappearing. 1 minute it's publicly available, and then the next minute he's not on the database. So why is that happening? It could be a visual glitch. It wouldn't surprise me. Look at YouTube with all the dodginess that goes on there. People being unsubscribed on my channel. People's notifications not working. People getting screwed over by YouTube. People's comments being deleted by YouTube. And then people thinking it's me that's deleting them. But it's not, it's YouTube. I've seen it on some of my previous videos in recent time, where I checked the comments out and it says 5 new comments or something. 5 comments, but none of them show. So who knows what goes on with the technology, but shit happens, right? But more with the Nam Us report of Dylan's profile, is there a possibility that the police in some way are editing the profile, taking it down, making sure they don't make any more public mistakes? Could they be more cautious now? Maybe they take down the public profile whilst updating the private profile, and then once they've finalised it, then they'll re-upload it. I don't know. You know, they've made mistakes in the past. They might be trying to cover them from now on and try and not make any more issues out of it. Who knows? If anyone else has been on the Nam Us report since, anything out of the ordinary, let me know or leave your thoughts down below. And then the final point before we move on to the map analysis, Candice Cooley, towards the end of that interview of Doug's, was saying that there's going to be a big push, hopefully, before winter, I assume in terms of trying to search for Dylan out there, that there are big plans ahead. And she was like, I was saying how, obviously in recent time, the way things have gone, the odd bit of information, important stuff's come out, and then it's gone very quiet, and so on. but we are working towards something big. So that sounds interesting, obviously. I mean, in my opinion, I describe it then how I describe it now. However, people have said roller coaster. It's been up and down with the information, both information, misinformation, switching and changing, but also in terms of new updates. Big updates, lots going on all at once, then it dies off for maybe a week or two or longer, and then more information coming out. Recently, with all these interviews and information coming out by Candice, it's been quite up there, hasn't it? Do you agree, chat? Do you think it's been quite up there in terms of activity? I'd say so. I know the drama has been way up here from what we've seen recently, but that's another story, right? So with this big push, it's supposedly that they've got private search teams and groups, maybe volunteers, who are going to go out there and assist before the winter. That could be very useful. If they've still got the drone, I don't know what happens with the drone after. I assume they hand it back to Equisearch, but in the meantime, they can use it for as long as they want, possibly. But this is the thing you've got to take in mind, Heavy D and the crew. Heavy D is doing his own videos. I mean, they're in Utah, which is a good thing, so they can come down and visit, but I assume that can the drone only be used when Heavy D is present? Or is there other people in between from now till whenever to still use the drone? I don't know about that. Maybe if they've got these teams coming in and this move, this push, they'll probably have people capable and they might have even more equipment and stuff going on. I mean, depending on how you interpret it, it sounds very good, it sounds very hopeful, but some people I know will complain, people will say, why was it not done sooner? But I guess it might be because of following certain procedures, the way it's gone with the police, reaching a certain breaking point, just like with information, right? And some of the information that's come out was arguably old news, but it's new news to us because we've not heard it before, because we weren't allowed to, because the police told the family to keep quiet. But with everything that's gone on, breaking point, time to release everything or as much as possible. So I can understand it in terms of that order and how it's developed. Do you agree in the chat? Is it understandable? Do you think, and I'll just do a small poll now if I've not done too many. Do you think this big push before winter is going to be successful or not? Dead end or new leads? Let me know what you think down below. And I think that's it regarding that stuff. Who knows if there'll be any more interviews, it wouldn't surprise me. So now what we'll do, we'll just briefly go on to the map analysis, see if we can tie in any points, what we've learned from this most recent interview of Candice on Doug's channel, tie it in together, and then after that, finish off with the news article. So don't go anywhere, let's transition over right now. So here we are, I'm going to go in the search thing. What was the last thing I typed? Garbage dump Lucin. Type that one in. As you see, it keeps going down to here nearer to Salt Lake City, as I was saying. But if we reword it to Montello, just make sure it knows what I'm typing, because sometimes it goes completely to a different country. Montello, Nevada, and we'll call it landfill. Okay, there you go, landfill near Montello. And I did try it a few different times. Disposal, waste disposal, landfill tip. And for most part of it, the search results kept coming here to Montello, as you can see on screen. We'll just take away that. Now, Montello itself, who knows what's taken there? I mean, if it's a place where trucks will visit once a month, gather it all, and then take it elsewhere, possibly to Wendover, where the waste disposal and waste management and recycling centre is, possibility, because it is nearer to that than other places, right? That would make sense. Now, is it monitored? Is it checked? Is there some kind of filter system? Because obviously, when it comes to landfills and tips, at times people, whether it's by accident or on purpose, will dump the wrong type of things into the place, which isn't allowed, could be illegal, needs to be taken out by hand, inspections and all that. So the likes of bones, would there be any questioning around it whatsoever? Leave your thoughts in the chat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when out on a walk, I've come across bones, but not human ones. It was dog bones. It was a bone of a fox or something like that. Nothing too dodgy. I've not come across any bones at a landfill. And speaking of landfills, if you remember, some of you will, if you watched my previous video to do with the horse one, when I was outside doing a walk and talk with the Dylan Rounds case and community, I did actually go onto an old landfill, which is no longer in use. And I was saying how there could be all kinds of things dumped there. There's been stories and news reports of cows when there was a disease going around and all the cows that had it were killed and disposed of and dumped into a landfill and then covered on top with dirt and all other kinds of rubbish. So obviously bones would form there. If people are getting rid of junk and trash, if they've had a barbecue, remains, carcass of an animal, bones broken up, gathered into pieces, put in a bag, get crushed down, when sent away, could get away with it, go under the radar. And maybe the same happens with human bones, providing it's not a full-length skeleton. That's just one way of internalise it. Now, this place itself, regardless of if it's taken elsewhere, who knows what could be dumped here? I mean, the land itself is vast. We've seen people dump things all over the place. You get cars abandoned, lawn mowers, etc., etc. But if it's in the heart of Montello, at the back of this town, and you've got some kind of disposal place, are people conservative with what they dump? Or do they go full out and, release a big load? That sounds a bit weird, the way I said that. But you get what I'm saying. I guess you can leave your own thoughts and opinions regarding that. But looking at this area, there isn't much to it. Now, maybe it needs updating or it doesn't quite show on the maps. But if this is the disposal place, there's just not really much going on. Try and zoom out a bit. I mean, you've got some stuff here, whatever that is, brown stuff. The odd mound back here, but there's not really much going on, right? You've got maybe 2 trailers or containers there. Got a few roads and pathways. And then you've got this building here which can't quite make out. But it's not exactly a big place, is it, if it's for disposal of waste? Maybe the residents here, it might just be basic, everyday rubbish and trash, bits of paper, boxes of stuff, food, bottles, maybe just that. It could be very simplistic. No images, I don't think. Doesn't look like it. No, because then that ends up disappearing. No, it doesn't look like it. There we go. Yeah, as you can see, there's no images for it. So that's disappointing. Is there anything else you would like to see in between, just very quickly whilst we're here? Just to, what about the church? Hope this doesn't take me too far away. Church, Montello. There we go. What? Why is it taking me at Church Road? Oh, we don't want a road. I guess it's just how you word stuff. You got the Montello landing strip. If you didn't know about this, for some reason, there's a person there that died, and they're called Philip Connor. 2000, he died. I don't know who that is. There you go. That was taken in 2021. Just in case you didn't know about it. It's kind of annoying though how these like official markers don't always show up. Saddle. I don't know if there was ever any proper photos inside. We looked at that, didn't we? Did we? What's going on there? I don't remember that image. Don't know who that is. That's inside Saddle Saw Bar. I don't know what. That's round the back or nearby within Montello. I remember that. You got that small little white building there. But what's going on here? Oh, is someone getting married or something? What's that in the background? Come to me, all you who you are. What? Come to me, all you who are. What? I don't know what the hell that is. This might be the Church of Montello, the Mormon one. I'm not too sure. To be honest, whenever I hear the word Mormon, I just think of Bourbons, those chocolate biscuits. So whenever anyone says Mormons, I'm thinking of food, okay? So, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I guess someone might be getting married, possibly 2022, so recent, okay. Peppermill Concert Hall, what the hell? Wouldn't want that. I don't remember seeing these last time, do you? What's going on there? Oh God, we got a bloody rock band. Some glitter. Concert hall. What? Wendover? All right. Best take that off because I don't know there'll be copyright going on. Anyway, less of that. So yeah, that's all I wanted to really refer to. Is there any other? What's this? Raw Retreat Repeat. I've never heard of that. Campground. Oh, once again, there's no pictures. That's annoying. Don't remember seeing that last time. Would you want to camp at Raw Retreat Repeat near Montello? Raw Retreat. Oh, you want it raw? Yeah, let's go camping raw. When there's certain people who are present in the area that might like it raw in different ways. Oh God, I need cleansing. Cleanse me now of all those dodgy thoughts. Right, Murdoch Mountain, did I ever check that one out? Oh yeah, that's the one where someone didn't bother going to it. I'm just making sure I've not missed out any other markers in between. I mean, if the bin bags were burnt, has there been any locations since exploring where there's been a fire? Can anyone confirm that, if they've seen it or not? Because me personally, the only fire I've picked up on, and I'm not just directly referring to Jim Brenner's trailer, but nearby to the trailer. I don't think I can find it on here on the spot, but basically, when it came to Brenner's trailer, nearby to it when Lance was exploring at the time, ended up coming across like an ash pit or a mound of ash, and then right next to it was a bit of cloth. Could that be possibly the bin bags that were taken down there and then burnt because it was separate from the trailer in distance, the fire itself? If I can find a photo now, I'll show it to you, okay? So the good news is I did manage to find the photos, so that's good. We'll get onto them in a second. I'm just using this image as a placeholder for now as I narrate. Hopefully there is a fair few people watching right now to hear this idea concept, whether it be to listen to or even debunk, whatever. It's worth discussing, okay? So, possibility that the bin bags collected from the grain shed June the 2nd, spring cleaning by Brenner, placing them near to his trailer, disposing of them later, having 14 days to dispose of them in one place or spread them out, who knows? White bin bags to take into mind. Now, the bin bag itself, if burnt, would disintegrate, right? But the items within the bag likely could turn into ash. And if there's a fair few bin bags, there'll be a fair bit of ash remaining, right? Where could ash be found and has been? Well, from my own observations, it would be where Lance went with Kimber that time, Brenna's former place of living in Montello near the mountainous region. Although the trailer burnt down longer ago, like a year or two before Dylan went missing, you look at the wreckage, you got the scrap metal, it's rusted, it's dark, you can tell there's been a fire. But as for the ash, doesn't seem to be present. That's gone. Though there is an ash pit nearby, further from the trailer, so I don't think it would have had a correlation to it with timing, and the ash looks more new compared to the fire of Brenna's trailer. And here's an image of it, right? You can contest, you can debunk if you want to in the chat, in the comments down below. Make sure to, because it's very important, this. But when I saw this at the time, I thought this looks a little bit newer compared to the trailer being burnt down, because there's not really any ash at the trailer, but there is here. And yet there's a distance between this and the trailer, so I don't think it would have caused it. It's as if someone has come down to this area, dumped a few things on top of one another, and then set it on fire. Now, when trying to zoom in, I don't know what is present here. You've got wiring for some reason, don't know why. But when you look through the rubble, and I tried clearing up last time in a previous video, you got these like fragments, bits of stuff, and it's white. Is it a possibility that it's a bone? It could be, because I know people have said when it comes to disposing of bones, you need a really, really, really high temperature, right? You know what I'm talking about, like when they put them in those incinerators for burning bodies and bone, turning it into pure ash. Now, could these be remains of bones of Dylan? I'm not sure of, because it looks white, it looks like fragments. Leave your thoughts down below. Could it be remains of Dylan or someone? Let me know. Bear in mind, on the land, there was a couple of buckets like these, different colours, and one of them was yellow, and inside of it there were bones, but most likely animal ones, because they were very small. It might be food Brenna had in the past. I don't know how long the bones date back, though. If any of you remember, that yellow bucket of small bones, I don't know if it was drumsticks. I'm not too sure, but most likely animal them. But referring back to this spot, that green bucket seems to have more ash in from the looks of it, or something white. If no bones are present here, is that it? Game over? No, not really. Because if it was clothing of Dylan, let's just say, maybe the bin bags were taken here because it's a place Brenna originally lived at, right? So he's used to this place. Maybe not many people go to. It's away from the crime scene. It's a place where people might not bother looking. Hell, the LE originally had no interest coming down here. So it would have been a good spot to dispose of Dylan or evidence of Dylan, right? So what I'm thinking is those bin bags, 4 of them could have had clothing of Dylan the day he was missing, the day he was taken out. Whether the clothing has blood on or not, or simply DNA, burning it down, incinerating it in a way, would be the go-to plan, and doing it further away. You look at this area here, there's a fair bit of ash. Would you say there's enough ash to warrant 4 bin bags worth of stuff? I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. One thing which was found, just behind that bush back there, round the back of this fire, a little bit of cloth was found. Fibre of it. Looks like it's from clothes. Now, does that look like clothing of Dylan's? A jacket, the hoodie, what he might have been wearing. Was it a grey or black flannel top? A flannel jacket he was wearing, something like that? Does that scrap of material look like from what he would be wearing when he went missing? Leave your thoughts. It just seems like there's a correlation between bin bags full of stuff being taken somewhere, possibility it being burnt, this ash pit here that looks kind of fresh compared to the trailer that burnt down a year or two ago, and finding a little bit of cloth nearby that didn't quite burn and blew in the wind, possibly. That might be why that wire was put on top of the ash pit to stop the fire blowing away, because, you know, if it's windy, and it can be in an area like that, it's very open, right? And you got wind, and you're trying to have a fire, one, the flames could blow out, and if not that, it could spread and cause a mass fire, which he probably doesn't want to cause. He don't want to create a big scene, because you know what's happened previous with Brenner and his clumsiness. Now, understandably, it might not even be Brenner that came down here. It could even be Don Hately. It could even be Chase Venstra. And the only reason why I say Chase Venstra is because in this area, not directly here, but somewhere nearby, Lance came across a load of logs or long wooden poles, and they said something about this is where Chase Venstra would come down, or these are resources from Chase Venstra and may have been passed on to Brenner at some point. So I'm just trying to make sense of that. If it's a place where Chase would have gone to in the past and he might have returned back to dispose of Brenner's items, it could even be Don Hately, who knows, or Jim himself. It just feels like there's possible links. Now, I guess one thing we've got to take in mind, though, is the LE when they went down and investigated. The LE during the investigation did have the cadaver dogs for searching and used ground penetrating equipment too, I believe, and extensively searched the place and did not find anything. So maybe that's enough to debunk the idea of Brenner going down there and burning the bin bags. But is there a possibility, because I'm not an expert on this, I'm not a criminal, is there a possibility that if you burn clothing, if you burn evidence, then if dogs came along later on, they wouldn't find anything because there wouldn't be anything remaining, unless it was bones. And obviously it probably wasn't bones, but it could have been clothing of Dylan's because of that scrap of material. Was that scrap of material taken by the police or not? Did they look over it, or did they ignore that one little bit hidden underneath that root? I don't know. Box Elder County and Elko counties, are they the two county police ones that were down there? Because I know Candice praised one but criticised the other, Box Elder County, right? So does that debunk that or not? Because if something's been burnt, there wouldn't be any remains or any way of finding it, sniffing it out. I'm not too sure. Like, someone got there before someone else, then yeah. But I guess the only thing you can say is leave your thoughts down below if you think the bin bag were taken to Brenner's place of living, his trailer. I'll even do a poll now, just very quickly. Do you think, after watching or seeing those photos before of the ash pit with the bit of cloth near it, do you think that's where Brenner disposed of the bin bags and burnt them? Yes or no? Okay, we'll leave it like that. So I think that ties up that up to now, right? Final thing, what we'll do possibly is just read through that article, okay? I'm not sure what it's about, but we can just get through it quick and then see where we are from there. Let's move on now. All right, so this is the title of the article. It reads, Dylan Round's family think bloody boots could shed light on his mysterious disappearance from the desert town. And this was by Lauren Fruin, updated 8:25 ET, October 18th, 2022. So the title, kind of misleading. They say bloody boots, but there was only a droplet of blood found on one boot, not on both. So it's a bit misleading, this title. You got an image there of Dylan Rounds, the one on the left, which we've commonly seen in posters and videos, thumbnails. Then on the right is an older photo, and Candice Cooley on the right-hand side of that. In the midsection, you've got a photo, an aerial one, of Dylan's place of living with his truck and the two trailers nearby. So you get an idea of that. We'll read down below from here. It says, the parents of a missing farmer who vanished in May have shared new theories about what may have happened to their young son. Dylan Round's family last heard from the 19-year-old by phone as he worked on his farm in Lucin, Utah. Dylan Rounds disappeared while working on his farm in Lucin. Okay. Now his parents, Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley, say a pair of bloody boots and the location of Dylan's phone may help answer what has happened to their son. Bear in mind, this information could be old, but this article is new. So we might as well read over it, see if there's any inaccuracies or mistakes, because it's very important. If there's mistakes made, and this is old information but used now, it needs to be corrected. So you got an image there of, the aerial shot by the news channel. Okay. You can see the stretch down there, the track marks as it goes all the way down. And I believe that's a pivot down there, if I'm correct in saying. It looks like it. Yeah. The rural location showing Dylan's pickup truck and trailer. Credit East Idaho News. Yeah, we've heard about them. Now his parents, Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley. Yeah, we've seen that. And the location of Dylan's phone may hold some answers to the mystery of what has happened to their son. Well, the phone was found in that pond of Lucin, right? By search and rescue. They told the East Idaho News both pieces of evidence point to a link with James Brenner, who has not been charged in the case, though he has been charged with the gun charges. Brenner, 59 years of age, is one of two men who were thought to have had contact with Dylan before his disappearance, the outlet reports. Supposedly the other man is Chase Venstra, because on the 25th, Dylan picked up Venstra near Tacoma Road. Okay, this article is at the moment being very vague in what it says. I've not seen too much misinformation at the moment, but you never know. There's always room for that. Then it reads, he has been arrested, Brenner, for felony gun crimes along with Chase Venstra, 41. Okay, now I didn't know how old Chase Venstra is. 41, interesting. Okay, so he's not exactly that old. More mobile than Brenner and more capable, right? I wonder if it will mention anything about Chase Venstra's motive when he was out at Snowville, Utah. We'll see. It goes on to say, but Dylan's parents believe Brenner also knows what happened to their son, whose disappearance police are now treating as a homicide investigation. Okay, so it's keeping up to date with the news. That's good. So yeah, it's being treated as a homicide investigation, but from what Candice Cooley said, the LE, Box Elder County, have not officially changed the title of the case to a homicide. It's still a missing person one, so that's unfortunate. It says, Justin and Candice believe the case hinges on a pair of Dylan's boots, which they say had blood on them and were found close to Brenner's property. Candice said Brenner has admitted he's the one who took the boots out there. Yeah, that's right. He said he found them by the shed on the property, picked them up, moved them by his camper somewhere, and then decided Dylan wasn't coming back for them, supposedly a month. Yeah, that makes sense, because I don't know if it exactly ties in line directly, but Dylan was supposedly doing custom farm work at some point, so possibility. Okay, so is there any more information down below aside from these weird, dodgy articles? Get away. What's this? As for Dylan's phone, it was found at the bottom of a pond on June 18th, known as Lucin Pond. Justin said call records show his son called Brenner on the day he disappeared. He also claims Jim was at the pond location that same day, which would have been after 2:30 p.m, I assume, from what's been said in the interviews. Brenner going down there to the pond and then going on to the barbecue, which is at Don Haley's, which is still on the same land of Lucin. So there you go. He also claims Jim was at the we said that. The US Sun has previously reported that Brenner was not interviewed by cops until June the 7th, and he has not been interviewed since, from what Candice Cooley has said. That was 10 days after Dylan, who turned 20 in August, last spoke with anyone. A search warrant was also executed at Brenner's trailer by the FBI on June 16th. Officials say they found ammunition, ignition caps, black powder associated with muzzle loader firearms, as we've already heard of. The US Sun has already reported how the teen's truck had also looked to be tampered with. I mean, would you call it tampering, or would you just call it being altered with? Tampered. Isn't that more used when you're trying to derail someone, hurt someone? You tamper with the brakes. So then when someone's driving it, they can't brake and then crash and die. Whoever the suspect was, they weren't tampering with the vehicle to take Dylan out. They were adjusting the vehicle to suit them when driving, such as adjusting the seat. So there is a difference between those words, and they're quite important how they're used, okay? It says his parents said it appeared too clean and was put in four-wheel drive after Dylan had been complaining earlier that the feature wasn't working. Well, yeah. When they say too clean, there might have been still dirt on it, as we saw, like near the wheels and underneath that. But in terms of around the truck itself, it looked like it was pressure washed by someone, right? So, and it's like, well, who would do that though? Because the vehicle's going to get dirty very quickly out there, whether it's sat idle or being driven about. The dirt, the dust, it's going to collect. So it's pointless trying to clean it unless you're cleaning it for other reasons, such as evidence, right? What else is there? Justin and Candice have already hit out at what they have said is an investigation riddled with multiple errors, omissions, lies, misconduct. Yeah, we've seen that listed. The key fob to Dylan's truck was brought back and placed in Dylan's camp trailer, according to his parents. However, they claimed investigators didn't seem to care. Yes, that happened on day number 3 after Dylan was gone. They didn't even think to treat anything suspicious, Candice said. They didn't start thinking, something's not right. Somebody bringing this kid's stuff back now and he's missing. No, nothing. They just continued on their merry way. Candice previously told East Idaho News she believes her son was taken and he did not leave his place willingly. Makes sense. Dylan was last seen working on his farm where he reportedly had a strange encounter with an unknown man days earlier, Chase Venstra. The man was walking down the gravel road barefoot. He flagged Dylan down, who was in his truck. Rounds and Katie Wells told East Idaho News. Okay. Katie Wells. The aunt. Is that something to do with Don Wells as well? Who's Don Wells? I heard of that name as well. She added that on the Wednesday before his disappearance, Rounds spoke with several family members on the phone about the man. He asked to use Dylan's phone and was acting erratically. Did he use the phone or not? Because I wonder what he would have done with that phone. Interesting. Dylan felt the man was dangerous and may have been high. When he asked Dylan for a ride, Dylan did not give him a ride. There has been no sign of Dylan and no cell phone or bank activity out since he disappeared, his parents say. Following Candice and Jim's new claims, Box Elder County, Utah Sheriff's Office told East Idaho News their case has been established as credible. Oh, dodgy images. They added, locating Dylan Rounds, protecting the integrity of the investigation and our ability to impose criminal responsibility upon anyone involved in his disappearance are utmost priorities. The US Sun has contacted Box Elder County Sheriff's Office for comment. Did they reply? James Brenner, 59, one of the two men who thought to have had contact with Dylan, before the disappearance. Chase Venstra, charged with gun crimes. Chase Venstra charged with gun crimes. And that appears to be it of the article. Okay, so hopefully that article sat well with you for most part of it. If it didn't, leave a comment down below if you've got any complaints regarding it or any corrections you want to add. I'd say the article itself was pretty vague with missing out important details, but the good thing was it included both old and new information, combining it together. So that's kind of good. One criticism is the title of the article and also the wording at times within it, saying blood was found on boots, making it like a massacre. No, it was a droplet of blood found on one of the boots, okay? So that's kind of like the mistake they made. Aside from that, you know, I know people will say, oh, this is old news, you know, why do we need to look at it? Well, there's no harm in combing over, you know, previous articles, news reports, just to see if we've missed any information, if there's any additional points we've not looked at or looked over before, right? No harm in doing that. And also just to clear up any misinformation, any errors made. Now, when it comes to much older articles way back then, like 2-3 months ago, it's not really worth going over them and saying, oh, look at that mistake, oh, that's wrong. You know, it was relevant at the time with the material that was present when covering the case, right? It's the best they could do. But like this article today is using, as I said, old information and new, and this article was pretty new, done recently, so it's worth looking at to see if it's updated the mistakes from the past of other news outlets, right? So yeah, I think that basically concludes that. We've covered a wide range of things today, both the interview of Candice, new details as well from No Thanks channel. Leave your thoughts down below to what you think of all that. Also make sure to, if you want to answer my questions, which I've mentioned throughout this whole video, make sure to answer them if you want to, or if you've got an additional point or something. We've also looked at, you know, the disposal places, but then also on the spot, that possibility to do with the ash pit, you know, maybe bin bags taken there. The other random question and theory about the horse being released accidentally, Dylan leaving the gate unlocked, and then it causing Brenner to get into a fit of rage and snapping that way, taking out Dylan, and that's why the horse tracks are elsewhere, and it wasn't Brenner that walked the horse out that way. The horse did it itself because it was freed. Let me know your thoughts about that as well. So yeah, and as well, I said, comment section, previous video, link to it, okay? That's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and good night.